Beirut violent protests against growing economic hardship erupted again in the Lebanese city of Tripoli on Tuesday, with banks set ablaze after a night of rioting that left one demonstrator dead, according to security and medical sources. A collapse in the currency, soaring inflation and spiraling unemployment are convulsing Lebanon, which has been in deep financial crisis since October. A shutdown to fight the new coronavirus has made matters worse for the economy. Overnight, protesters in Tripoli set several banks and an army vehicle on fire. Soldiers fired in the air and used tear gas and rubber bullets, a security source said. The man who died was in his 20s and it was not immediately clear who was responsible for his death, the source said. Protesters returned on Tuesday, setting 2 banks on fire and smashing their facades, prompting the army to redeploy. Dozens of soldiers positioned themselves in a street lined with several banks, and some fired rubber bullets and tear gas to repel protesters. Prime Minister Hassan Diab urged Lebanese to refrain from violence and said malicious intentions behind the scenes were shaking security and stability. We are faced with a new reality, a reality that the social and living crisis has made worse at record speed, especially with the rise of the US dollar exchange rate to record levels on the black market, Diab said in a statement. Lebanon's battered pound, which has lost more than half its value since October, has slid sharply over the past week, triggering small protests despite a coronavirus lockdown and pleas by officials for people to remain home. US dollars sold for 4,200 Lebanese pounds each on Tuesday according to one importer, despite a central bank directive capping the price at 3,200. Several currency dealers were arrested on Monday for violating the cap, prompting their trade association to announce an open-ended strike. The unrest threatens to tip the country back into violence even as Beirut looks to pass an economic rescue plan and enter negotiations with foreign creditors after defaulting on its hefty debt obligations last month. Tripoli, a port city 80 kilometers (50 miles) north of Beirut and long dogged by poverty and unemployment, was the stage for big protests against Lebanon's ruling elite during widespread demonstrations last October. This is not a riot, this is expressing anger that the dollar has reached 4,000 Lebanese pounds. How are people going to eat? And this is the holy month of Ramadan, said Abu Hussein, a Tripoli activist. The army said that overnight a firebomb was thrown at one of its vehicles and a hand grenade was hurled at a patrol. It blamed the trouble on infiltrators and called on peaceful protesters to leave the streets. It said 40 soldiers were wounded in Tripoli and elsewhere after patrols sent to reopen roads were attacked with stones. 3 banks and several ATMs in Tripoli were burned overnight and 9 protesters were arrested, a statement said. The UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Jan Kubis, said the violence was a warning for Lebanon's political leaders. This is the time to provide material support to increasingly desperate, impoverished and hungry majority of Lebanese all around the country, he said in a tweet. The Banking Association declared all banks in Tripoli shut until security is restored. Banks have been a target of savers angered by being frozen out of their deposits. We are surely heading to a much worse place. If it is not solved with politics, this situation will surely keep on deteriorating, said Samer Diblis, an activist from Tripoli.